We've all heard stories of North Korea, ruled by a ruthless family of dictators, where citizens are closed off from the rest of the world, fed only propaganda that reinforces the regime's narrative. And if you don't obey them, you will be silenced. Now, what if I told you there was a country whose history resembled this cold and bloody regime of North Korea? And it's closer to home than you may think. In fact, it's in Europe. Once known as the North Korea of Europe, this European nation was convinced the world was out to destroy them. Or at least that's what they wanted you to think. For almost 40 years, it was ruled by a ruthless dictator. And just like Stalin, who ruled the Soviet Union, or the Kims who still rule North Korea, if you opposed his rule, you were silenced. Hoxha, the communist leader, kept his people in a constant state of fear by playing up the threat of foreign invasion, maintaining his grip of power. Keeping up this bluff, around 750,000 concrete bunkers were built across the country. These were constant visual reminders of the threats to their nation, keeping the people in a state of fear and readiness for war. Everything was controlled to support his rule. Schools were used to brainwash students with communist values, and they tightly restricted any knowledge or technology from the outside world. It became one of the most isolated and repressed countries in the world. This dark history tells the extraordinary story of how one man held an entire country hostage for 40 years and got away with it, here in the European country of Albania. What was life like under the dictator's rule? And how did this affect the people of Albania? I'm not just here to uncover the past, I'm here to listen to the stories that no one has ever told.
We know people that have been killed. I used to be afraid of my own clothes.
I've sat down with the people who've lived through this oppressive regime. People who have kept their stories hidden for decades. What happens to a nation and its people after spending 40 years living like the North Korea of Europe. Arriving in Tirana, the capital, is honestly incredible. The winding streets are intricate and would have housed so many stories from the time of Hoxha's reign. First up, I needed some cash to get myself into the city, and I found a local ATM.
So this is great, we're going to get some money out, which is awesome because Wise is sponsoring this video. They work in over 160 countries and have over 40 different currencies, which is awesome.
After dropping the bags in the local home we had rented, I decided to take a minute to look out over this place. This alleyway I'm in, what secrets happened here? With 1 in 4 people being in the secret police and 5 apartments in this building, odds are someone who lived here was part of the regime. With a stronger desire than ever to learn more about this place and the people who lived through this ordeal, it was time to make my way to Bunkard, a museum where local people have turned Hoxha's actual main nuclear fallout shelter and war room into a monument to the atrocities.
I really like it here. I really like it. I don't see any hiddenness like they were, because they were so closed off. It just feels like a normal town, and I really like the vibe.
Grabbing a coffee on the way, I can't help but notice the stony face of the waiter. His parents would have lived through this, and he would have been born during the worst of the worst economic times.
That's 210.
So even though I'm paying in Albanian lek, Wise use the mid-market exchange rate, so it's usually what you see on Google. And I know I'm not being charged any extra crazy conversion fees or any hidden fees.
May I get a review?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I tried to get a smile with some broken Albanian before heading down into the city square.
It is crazy to think that not that long ago, this entire place was cut off to the world, like literal North Korea. No one in, no one out. And the fact that they've used all this colour around here now on the buildings, on the seats, everything is all intentional to try and come away from that, depressing Soviet feeling past. I think it's pretty cool showing sort of where they've come from and what they're choosing to be now.
If I was thinking of a city that had been through secrecy and being closed, like a hermit country, it feels the opposite. It feels happy. Everyone feels free and happy here.
With positive first impressions since landing here in present-day Albania, we're on our way to learn more about its very dark and isolated past. This bunker in particular was originally built as an anti-nuclear shelter for Albania's Ministry of Internal Affairs and the secret police, the Sigurimi. Constructed during the height of Hoxha's paranoia, it was designed to protect the regime's top officials in case of invasion or nuclear attack. Deep underground, the bunker was a secret nerve centre where the Sigurimi could continue to operate, ensuring control over the population, even in the most extreme circumstances. This was a place built to hide power, not just protect it.
Wow, this is massive. I didn't quite understand how big these are. I'm fully under the ground in one of these bunkers, and I don't think I've realised the extent of these things. So,
You see, the secret police were the backbone of this oppressive regime, using surveillance, informants, and fear to maintain control. They monitored every aspect of life, targeting anyone suspected of opposing the regime. Through a vast network of informants, they created a culture of paranoia where people feared betrayal even by their own friends or family. The Sigurimi enforced strict communist ideology, suppressed religion, operated brutal labour camps, and eliminated those who disagreed.
A bunker like this, the purpose of a prisoner would be that this person here locked up might be disappeared. Their family doesn't know where they are, and the secret police brings them here so they can get something out of them and interrogate them in those rooms.
Walking through this bunker, seeing real photos and real people, it really made you feel somewhat transported back to the time in which it functioned.
so these people that lived through this are alive. This didn't even happen that long ago.
Leaving the bunker and learning more about these secret police has left me with more questions than answers. Yes, I'm more aware of the history now, but that's not why I'm here.
So seeing this is awesome, but I'm here to find out why this is known as the North Korea of Europe. And I think to do that, I really have to speak to someone who's lived through this.
Surely the people have incredible stories to tell. This isn't ancient history. Most of the living population went through this, and I have to meet the people who experienced it.
So this is my first time in Europe in over 10 years, and I remember back then I used this travel money card. If you know what I'm talking about, you're probably as old as me, if not older, and it was so inconvenient and weird to figure out how to buy things when I traveled, and I lost so much money on the conversion fees and everything like that.
So Wise is a multi-currency travel card. So if you're coming here to places like Europe, you can load some euros on, or if you're going to the US, you can load some USD on, and then you're pretty much just tapping and spending the local currency. If you want to get started with Wise for your next trip today, if you click the link in the description bar, you can get your first transfer free up to £500 and start using Wise on your travel and save so much money on hidden fees. I woke up this morning with a positive email in my inbox. A man that had lived through this was willing to take me bunker hunting to see what stories we can uncover. This is Elton. A child of the 80s, born at the height of Albania's hermit paranoia, he spent his youth idolising the dictator and his regime. You know the scenes of people crying and wailing after the death of Kim Jong II? Much like that. The first stop is Hoxha's current resting place, a chance to see the man who did all of this, or what's left of him anyway.
We got the grave of Enver Hoxha in there. He was the symbol of our paranoia. And it's a cemetery with a bunker, many bunkers actually, but there is one which is very visible inside. And I believe it's a great way to start telling this story.
But who is Enver Hoxha? Hoxha took power in 1944, after World War II, emerging from the chaos of the war to lead Albania into one of the most isolated regimes in modern history. At first, he allied with Yugoslavia, and then the Soviet Union, and later Communist China. But he broke ties with them all by cutting Albania off from every major power out of deep paranoia that they would betray him. And by the 1970s, Albania stood completely alone, a hermit state with no friends, surrounded by enemies, real or imagined.
But this was a tragedy for us.
Yeah, sure.
We were at the border of hunger because of, these bunkers.
Interestingly, his coffin was dug up from his presidential burial site and his body sent to this nondescript cemetery away from any fanfare. The first indication of what the people of Albania think of their former leader, who died 5 years before his regime actually fell.
And he died in 1985. I was a child, I was 9 years old. I remember the day when they taught us at school that he died. I cried so sincerely, and I really felt I was left alone in this world and he's not around anymore. I cried. I was a child. I was just like anybody else, totally brainwashed, the brainwashing machine, it was so big that there was no way for me as a 9-year-old child to understand that. My parents would be afraid to tell me that, listen, what they're saying is not true. Don't worry about this, worry about that. They could not tell me because I could go outside in the neighborhood and tell my friends, which would go and tell their parents, which would go tell the police. They went on for another 5 years officially. And then the 10 years which followed, the end of the communist regime, I'm talking between 1990 to 2000, they were the worst part.
Wow.
I feel like I was like a bird born in a cage. So when they let you out, you don't know how to provide food. You don't know which direction to go, what is danger, what is free, what is, so the time when they collapsed, in my opinion, were the worst times, not because we missed them, but because we had no clue about what to do now.
Hodja's legacy left Albania isolated, economically and culturally stunted. But the real damage, the kind that Elton and so many others carry, was psychological. The fear, the mistrust, and the lies didn't disappear with Hodja's death. They lingered. His shadow still looms over this country, even decades later.
So do you feel like a lot of the people here still respect?
No.
No?
I mean, yeah, people refer to him anytime a crime happens, anytime there is corruption, stuff like that. We refer to him because you do a crime, he would kill you. There was not much stories and democracy and stuff. There was a little bit of corruption. You pass a certain amount of money that you have made from corruption, he kills you, so. But, and they say there was no corruption, but there was nothing as corrupt as him.
How do you feel at his grave site, having grown up with such an influence from
I
this?
told you that I thought he was great. He was some sort of god. I will never forget. My father brought me one day to the cemetery up there, and I will never forget. My father said, "Kiss the grave." So I knee and kiss the grave, and I felt emotional. Probably that must have been in the first or second year after he died. I love to do the contrast and be honest about it. That I sincerely cried for him. But of course today I believe I'm doing a job which goes exactly against his interests. I hope somehow I punish him. And as much respect as I have for any human life or death, I believe this guy needs to symbolically, be punished somehow.
Sure,
and,
sure.
I hope I'm doing my job,
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine what life was like for Elton and the people of Albania during the ruling of this brutal dictator. But as we met some locals in passing, it seemed like these difficult experiences haven't tainted their character.
Honestly, everyone in Albania has been so friendly. So friendly. We got here on the plane, and our taxi driver started blasting Kylie Minogue and started talking to us about Kylie Minogue, Australian singers, and playing Albanian music. It was so friendly.
And just as we were about to get back in the car, we ran into one of Elton's good friends.
What do you feel about Hodja?
Hodja was an uneducated person, first of all. So he started to study in France in Montpellier, but he never finished, he doesn't finish his studies. And furthermore, in 1991, when we broke down his statue, our state university kept his name. Can you imagine in your countries somebody uneducated to keep the name of the state university?
Of a university.
He was a very clever, handsome man, but it was a harsh dictator, frankly speaking, for me, my own opinion.
Yeah, I like opinions.
With that chilling reminder of the realities in mind, it was time to hunt for bunkers, most of which were built on the properties of locals. Arriving at this nondescript farmhouse, and this local man has no idea who we are. But hearing our mission today, he cut the barbed wire of his neighbour's farm and showed us the reminders of the dark history of his country.
It's massive. I didn't expect it to be. Oh, we're going inside. We're going inside. Wow. Wow, it's so tall. Oh, wow. Never seen anything like this.
After only hearing stories and seeing pictures about these famous bunkers, it felt surreal to be finally standing in one. But I can't help but to wonder what life was like for this kind farmer that showed us here.
Growing up or being there, what did he think of Hoja and his regime at the time?
Veni me vërtet ishi i mbyll. Jetë shiqu hapën.
The country was very isolated.
Vetëm fara dhe që ikën.
But now the country opened up and we are all alone now. Everybody's gone.
Wow.
Po punë e kishte dhënë gjithë atëherë me të kohë. Meshim pak po që të gjithë punë.
We made very little money, but we were all employed.
Right.
Gjithë punë. Ishim më të lidhur me njëri
We
tjetrin.
were much more connected to each other.
Wow.
Ne moshim njëri tjetrin.
Used to help.
Kishim një harmoni të jashtëzakonshme.
We had an exceptional harmony.
Wow.
We
Zemrën e kishim
ate little, but our heart was huge.
Still is huge. This is crazy. We just came out of one. we're walking and we can see 2 or 3 more. There are 4 next to each other on this piece of land. Why do you need so many of these things? Like, this is blowing my mind. So they are kind of all the same, but I didn't realize how big they actually were. Like, if I'm standing next to these things, like, I can't imagine, number one, having to be the people to make this. This is an insane amount of work, and all the materials would be so heavy, but I'm actually speaking to the people that were around when this happened. This is crazy.
And while the structures are impressive, the real stories lie in the people behind them. And the story of this man is one that is shared all over the country.
I met someone today. He used to be one of my drivers. I hadn't seen him in 25 years. We cried. We missed each other so much. There was a lot of heart between us, not like now. 20 years we worked together, and we never wasted 20 seconds. We would always chat with each other. We never had any arguing with each other. The world has changed so much. We, the old people, we would rather eat less and spend more time with each other. Yeah. Capitalism is too wild.
Yeah.
You see, while life in the regime was brutal, life after the regime was just as hard. Economic instability and the lack of diplomatic relationships or a workforce meant that many fled Albania in search of more. A brain drain that still hurts the country and Albania's future to this day. With this weighing heavy on my mind, I decided a coffee and some time to think was the best next step, until more of that Albanian friendliness interrupted us in the best way possible.
Hello.
Do you want to taste a little bit raki?
Can I?
Yes.
You made it?
Yes, I made home. This is made home raki.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a distilled grape.
You want a taste?
Yeah, I would taste too, yeah. Absolutely.
Gazur. Gazur.
Gazur.
Gazur.
Gazur. It was a pleasure.
Okay, you too.
Yes. We are. No, it's not so strong.
It's alright, it's good.
It's about 48%.
Yeah, just 48%.
Just 48%.
48%.
Our lunch stop turned into meeting the locals, and this is where things started to get a little interesting.
Zur.
Zur. Zur, Elton. Just 48% alcohol. These guys are machines. Zur.
What's your name?
Joycey.
Joycey,
yes.
Michael is a name that in English is Michael, and here is Mohammed.
Oh, really?
I think so. I'm not sure. Okay, Michael Mohammed, huh? Cheers, Mohammed.
Cheers, Mohammed.
Mohammed didn't drink.
Oh, gosh. Cheers.
Let's have a toast for our guest, yeah?
Sure.
This is for you. We hope you to have a nice
Oh, just a little bit.
around
Just,
Albania.
Yeah.
This is your portion. Huh?
This is your portion. Cheers, everyone. Yeah. I don't know the words.
Who takes the last drop? All ladies have eyes on him.
All the ladies. No.
Isn't it funny how quickly you can go from complete strangers to friends? With just a little kindness and maybe a few grape juices, just shows you what the people are like here in Albania.
I used to be better at this when I was younger.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have a hangover. All in the name of good friends. Okay, new friends.
It's a pleasure, and we never will forget you because you are nice people, but at the same time, Michael is very well known a name for us. Josie, of course, and Tony.
Tony. Roft. I don't think I've drunk this much ever. How much you say? 48% alcohol?
These men are all friends from primary school. Their friendship has seen so much. One a soldier, one built bunkers, one even an actor. They had so much wisdom and alcohol to share. It was time to say goodbye to our new friends, who had managed to feed Michael enough raki to take down a small horse and continue our search.
It's time to go to sleep. Oh, how did I open the door again? Why isn't the door closing?
You have the seatbelt in there?
No, that wasn't me. Help me.
Okay, maybe we both had too much.
Like to use an Australian term, I'm pissed. They fed me so much alcohol.
I'm buzzing. All right, let's go have a look. It'll be your first time in a bunker, so let's go have a look.
A large bunker amongst some rose bushes is where Elton will share with me his darkest story yet.
1981, when this was produced. January 81.
81.
Yes. I was 5 years old.
Wow.
It's the time when I was being brainwashed, you know, like, and thinking that the bunkers were there to protect us from you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they told us that every morning somebody in America, in Russia, in France, in Germany, in England is waking up. His first thought or her first thought is, how am I gonna manage so that I can invade Albania today?
That's what you were told?
We were told this, yeah, somehow, you know, like that everybody wanted to invade us. And, you know, like, and we felt comfortable because we got the bunkers, we got the weapons, we got the planes, we got the tanks, you know, like, so.
Trust the government.
So we trusted. I mean, I did. I was a child, 5 years old, you know, like, I was very easy as a target to be brainwashed. My parents didn't,
Yeah.
but I did. How could we know?
Yeah.
They didn't let us go and see the world. It was forbidden for us. How could we know? They were not telling the truth. How could somebody from the mountain villages deep inside rural Albania know that
Yeah.
this was not true? My parents knew. They were city people, but how could I know?
Yeah.
They couldn't tell me.
So if you or your parents were believed to have doubt against that, would they have been killed? Is that what happened?
It depended on which family they belong to. Some people, yes, they died because of that, because they put in doubt what the dictator was saying. But in the best cases, they would probably, you know, like either criticize you, either just send you to forced labor, or, you know, in the worst case, in prison or execution.
Just by doubting his plan?
Yes, absolutely. You know, like you couldn't have any doubt. They have a special law for that. They call it the law for agitation and propaganda. So if you go around the neighborhood or in your school or in your enterprise and you say that, you know, like Americans, oh, you know, like they live in prosperity. You were doing something illegally wrong, which was agitation and propaganda. In the best case, maybe 8 or 12 years in prison. In the worst case, execution.
Wow.
So I heard something about having police that are undercover. So did they infiltrate cities and villages to find out who was talking against it?
Of course. I mean, generally they knew who was talking against it, who was not like a big fan of the regime and everything. And what they had was, you know, like Communist Party members all around, which were openly seeing this, but they also had people in incognito. I mean, we know people which have been betrayed by their wives or by their brother. And they talked to their brother about this American movie they might have seen the previous day illegally on a Yugoslav television.
Right.
I know somebody, he went to prison 8 years. You know, like for telling his best friend. 8 years in prison. His wife divorced him. You know, like because otherwise the children would, you know, like also suffer. They would be sent to forced labor and stuff like that.
Because he watched a movie. So you were like bugged.
We were bugged all over, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
What? In houses?
In the house, maybe, if you were a potential enemy.
Like they were, yeah.
They would have put a bug in your home. If you were a high function bureaucrat, for example, there might be a bug in your jacket. You
if there was
know.
suspicious.
You were suspicious for something, you were a famous artist which is being a bit too modern.
Yeah.
They would stick a bug in your jacket in your ashtray, in your broom, all around, like in the most improbable places, in your bag, and they would listen to what you're saying.
And then possibly kill you.
We know people that have been killed. So we grew up under a sort of a paranoia, to be honest, we thought everybody was a potential spy and a potential enemy of our happiness. I feel privileged that I had to go through these kind of things because I appreciate life now. I appreciate freedom, I don't complain too much. What I do is that I just enjoy what I've got. It's maybe not a lot, but it's amazing, it's things that I'm having now I would not even dare about having these things, 30 years ago. It's like yesterday. I remember everything. And it's so great. So people, don't complain, enjoy life. You got a lot. You got a lot more than you really need, just enjoy them. Don't waste your time and your life and your energy complaining about things which are not so relevant. You got freedom, first of all. And that is the most important.
Yeah.
Driving away from this bunker, I'm left wondering about the future for Albania. I see determination in Elton. I see solidarity in the men at the restaurant, and I see pain in the eyes of the man who lost his best friend. These people have been through so much. We spent the rest of the afternoon seeing tunnel bunkers, heading towards the beachside town of Durrës, stopping for food along the way. It's at this beach where it hits me. The bunkers are strength. The people of Albania aren't demolishing them. They're turning them into practical parts of their country, finally giving them a use. Maybe one day this will be a hotel or an office. These structures, once built to protect Albania from an imaginary enemy under the paranoia of an evil dictator, a symbol of so much taken from the incredible people who have shared so much with me in my visit to their country, is being turned into a symbol of hope. You see, erasing the bunkers would mean erasing their history. And whatever they write from here on in, the people of Albania want to remember their past. It shapes who they are. Resilient, hardworking, brave, and above all, welcoming of the very people they were once taught to hate. I asked Elton to pull over so we could take some drone shots, stopping in front of a local mechanic who immediately invited us inside for a coffee. Elton doesn't know these people, but in Albania, that doesn't matter.
Elton's gone in to talk to someone and he's gone, come over, come have coffee. So we're going to come have coffee.
So he's giving you Nescafe.
Oh, thank you.
But Gemma is also making you another coffee.
I have both?
Yeah.
Do?
Po.
Do.
Do coffee.
Thank you.
Go for them. Yeah, Ross, Mike, you gonna get a beer though.
Okay.
Italian one.
That's a lot of beer.
Armed with 2 coffees, a beer, and insatiable curiosity, I can't help but to ask them about the past.
If they grew up here, if this is their neighborhood, can you ask them what they think of Isahoja?
Njerëzit nuk janë gjithë njësoj, si puna gishtave.
Just like fingers are never the same. Yeah.
Interesting.
Një është I mirë, tjetri I keq.
Some are nice, some are less nice.
He sounds very wise. Did you live in fear? Like, did you feel like you couldn't trust anyone?
Mos, frikë plot. Frikë edhe nga kjo.
I used to be afraid of my own clothes. There was no trust you could put into yourself here.
Wow.
Që të thojë një fjalë, do ta njipi atë person që të shprehë lirisht.
If you wanted to express yourself freely, you better make sure you are very 100% sure on that person. They used to pay them 1,200 lek, which was, like a miserable pay, but yeah, just to go and spy on people.
Një fjalë po thoje,
one word.
Ai shkon dhe lajmëronte se ka qenë sekretar partia kështu.
They would go and tell. They were secretaries of the party and, to the prison. Sometimes.
Yeah, do you feel free now?
Po tani ani është I lirë.
Po tash, nuk kam pse të kem frikë tani.
I have no reason to be afraid now.
About nothing.
Who would have thought that here, in front of this random Albanian mechanic shop, somewhere in the countryside between Durrës and Tirana, that so much wisdom could be shared? When you have been through what these people have been through, you have a lot to teach, and all I can do is listen.
Do you have any advice for any people maybe our age or younger? What about your life?
Fillimisht të njihen
First of all, know each other. Give it a chance. Get to know each other. Start from the heart. Look at the heart. And then look at the brain. And then listen to the mouth. And then decide, but get to know each other, first of all. And then, decide about what you're going to do with life. But give a chance to people.
That's a good bit of advice. Thank you. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. You don't know them, do you?
No.
I love them. They're so
We just
sweet.
came to explain them why we stopped.
Yeah.
And he said, coffee.
Very friendly.
I came to Albania drawn by its past, the stories of isolation, fear, and control under a brutal regime. And while I found those stories, I learnt something far more powerful. Resilience, sacrifice, and hope run deeper here than I ever imagined. Elton taught me that even when you grow up believing lies, there is hope for change. As a child of the regime, he believed everything he was told. But now he raises his own children with the gift of choice, a gift he never had. The older man on his farm showed me a different kind of loss. His best friend left after the regime fell, searching for a better life abroad. His tears weren't just for a lost friendship. They were for a future that he had once dreamed of together, one that was taken by circumstances neither one of them could control. His story is a reminder that even after freedom comes, the scars of separation remain. Then there were the men who welcomed me with open arms and endless Reiki. They lived through the worst of it all, but still they laugh, they sing, and they share. Their stories of survival are woven with joy, because even under the darkest of shadows, the bonds of friendship and community remain unbreakable.
Let's have a toast for our guest, yeah?
Sure.
This is for you.
Cheers.
What I've learned is that Albania is more than its history of bunkers and dictatorships. It's a country where the wounds of the past haven't healed, but they've been transformed. In a world that once tried to take everything from them, they found something the regime couldn't destroy. Hope.
Thank you.